Thanks for joining us for this month's edition of Okaloosa Eye on Crime, where one of the first orders of business will include a shout out to the person whose tip helped in nabbing an attempted bank robber.
And we're going to be talking about that case as well as profile some cold case mysteries and the disappearance of a Crestview area woman. Add that in. We're hoping, of course, that someone out there has information that's going to bring some fresh leads to law enforcement on all these cases. Let's get started.
So first up, the Crestview Police Department is still searching for answers in a 25-year-old disappearance of a teenager. Christy Rogers has been missing ever since she returned home from her boyfriend's house around 5:30 a.m. on Saturday, August 2nd, back in 1997. At the time of her disappearance, she was then 16, was living with her mother by the overpass on Walnut Street up in Crestview. Extensive searches by local investigators turned up nothing, and the only evidence found was clothing and a key ring belonging to Christy that was located behind the old Winn-Dixie in Crestview. Now, investigators are still hopeful that someone can provide them some information about what might have happened to Christy. And of course, if you have any information, you can contact Crime Stoppers 100% anonymously.
And the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office continues to search for a Crestview woman who's been missing since 2020. 25-year-old Sarita Annis was last seen on Airport Road in Destin with a male friend on July 20th, 2020. Sarita has lived in and out of homelessness. However, she always keeps in contact with her mom, so it is out of the ordinary for her not to have been heard from. She's 5'3" and weighs around 165 pounds with purple and blue hair and green eyes, and she does walk with a limp. If you've got any information regarding Sarita, please contact the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office 850-651-7400 or Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers.
Next up, the Walton County Sheriff's Office is trying to identify the man you see in these photos, reference a vehicle burglary that occurred on Scenic Gulf Drive in Miramar Beach sometime between 11 p.m. on July 30th and 8 a.m. on July 31st. Now, the suspect used the victim's bank card at the Walmart in Destin shortly after the burglary. Again, we do want to remind folks, lock your vehicles. This was an unlocked vehicle. So anybody with information, take a look at him if you know who he is. 863-TIPS, EmeraldCoastCrimeStoppers.com, or of course we have the P3TIPS mobile app.
Moving now to a 2015 murder investigation that remains unsolved. On Thursday, October 1st of 2015, around 2 in the afternoon, the Fort Walton Beach PD responded to a shots fired call in the area of 3rd Street and Carson Drive. When officers arrived, they found that victim, 29-year-old Jeppy Cortez Samuel, shot multiple times, and he later died at the hospital. The shooter fled in a dark-colored Hyundai four-door vehicle with dark tinted windows. Anyone with information about this, obviously contact Crime Stoppers. There is a reward of up to $3,000 offered for information, which will lead to an arrest in this case.
And now we usually mention cases that law enforcement is seeking information regarding, but it's not very often that we talk about some of the successes that we have, and that we did mention in the introduction that we had a bank robbery suspect that was located thanks to a tip, and he was actually only living in Okaloosa County about 2 weeks when he was charged with the attempted bank robbery, as well as failure to register as a sex offender. And you can see here some photos. We were able to track 45-year-old Kirk Lousy in connection with the robbery attempt at Eglin Federal Credit Union in Mary Esther back on August 8th. Victim said the man handed her a note demanding money. After she went to give the note to the supervisor, he left without any money, but investigators not only used some surveillance video, there was a Crime Stoppers tip that actually helped them locate the suspect. So thank you to that tipster, and of course they will be getting reward money coming up next month.
You have another one as well.
We do. We've also got another story, and that was the Florida Highway Patrol asked us to put out a photo of a truck that was involved in a hit and run on Okaloosa Island just a couple of weeks ago in August, and thanks to a tipster, they got the plate of that vehicle and were able to charge him with not only hit and run, but no insurance and no valid driver's license.
Great successes, so keep those tips coming. Now, 20 years ago, a 15-year-old girl vacationing in Destin lost her life simply because she was standing on the sidewalk waiting to cross Highway 98. As fate would have it, it was the exact wrong place at the exact wrong time.
Yeah, it's an unsolved fatal hit-and-run case that has haunted the teen's family, the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office investigators, and the community for 2 decades.
Now, the mother of Michelle, Shelley Metters, says she has moved past the pain of 20 years of seemingly endless stab wounds to her heart, and she has moved to forgiveness. But at this point, she's just hoping someone will let her know what happened. Take a look.
Like I said, 20 years has been a long time, and I miss her.
Shelley Metters would be 35 years old if a hit-and-run driver had not traveled up onto the sidewalk she was standing on 20 years ago and struck her and a friend as they waited to cross Highway 98 in Destin. Even after 2 decades, Shelley's mom, Belinda, and OCSO investigators have never given up hope of finding out exactly what happened.
We've received several tips over the years, which we have investigated, and unfortunately they haven't panned out. However, we know that somebody knows something, and that person has yet to come forward with the information that we need to close this case. And we would hope, 20 years later, maybe that enough time has passed for whatever reason is causing them to hesitate, that they would now come forward and give us what we need to get this case closed.
On the 20th anniversary of Shelley's death, Belinda's focus is on forgiveness, but still hoping to learn the who and the how behind her loss.
Yes, I do. Yes, I want to know really bad. I just think just it knowing and the family knowing, it's going to really help us mentally. That as her mommy, I mean, my heart's broken, but it would give me some self-satisfaction, within me to know at least what had happened. The person that did it, I forgive them. I never wanted to see anybody go to prison or jail or anything. I just wanted them to maybe speak out about the accident and what the consequences were, you could say.
We just, more than anything, are looking to give her and her family some peace after all this time.
Okay.
If anybody knows anything, if someone was there in the middle of Destin at that time and saw something or knows something, to come forward and talk to us. We're willing to listen and not pass judgment. We want to give them the closure they need.
Now we're going to move to our first list of fugitives. We're hoping maybe you can help law enforcement locate, and we want to remind you they are wanted as of today's taping date, which is September 2nd, 2022. So let's get right into it. First up is going to be a new face to the show. That's Nolan St. Laurentis Harris. He's wanted for felony aggravated assault, battery, larceny, and domestic violence, last known to live on Landry Street in Fort Walton Beach.
And another success story due to a tip. Candy Fuca Wesson has been located. Thank you to the tipster.
But we're still looking for Kais Levon Maston, a 29-year-old black male, wanted for lewd and lascivious behavior.
Next up is Ann Margaret Mary Marsh. Marsh is wanted for failure to appear for theft and elderly abuse. Her last known address was on Madeline's Path in Fort Walton Beach.
59-year-old William Connell Burrell, he's wanted for felony failure to appear for possession of a weapon by a convicted felon, as well as possession of narcotics, last known to live on Hobart Road in Fort Walton Beach.
Law enforcement is also trying to find out where to locate Donald Joe Mitchell because he's wanted for DUI and driving with a license that had been suspended or revoked. His last known address was in Navarre.
Still looking for Tad Keith Bowers, wanted for violation of probation on the original charge of child neglect.
Another felony VOP, this one Clifton Ray Edwards, wanted for carrying a concealed weapon.
This next individual is wanted for arson. That's 39-year-old Zachary Lee Dalton.
Angela Dawn Tripp up next, wanted for failure to appear for exploitation of the elderly, last known to live on Crown Creek Circle in Crestview.
43-year-old Scott Daniel Sconyers is wanted for violation of probation for DUI, as well as fleeing and eluding, last known to live in Destin.
Still trying to track down Anthony Michael Fridelli. Fridelli's wanted for VOP for grand theft, trafficking in stolen property, and providing false information to a pawnbroker. His last known address was in Fort Walton Beach.
And we don't have a photo of Brandon Dalton West, but he's being sought for sexual assault.
Still searching for Alyssa Victoria Hibberts. Hibberts is wanted for VOP for child neglect and possession of cocaine.
Janelle Eileen Navarro, who's 37, she's wanted for felony violation of probation for 4 counts of sell, manufacture, or deliver narcotics.
Unfortunately, we do not have a photo available for Charles Lewis Craig. He's a 59-year-old white male who's wanted for sexual assault.
Last up on our first list is J. William Shutter, who's 79 years old, and he's wanted for felony child neglect.
Moving on now from ongoing active shooter training to mobile panic buttons, the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office and the Okaloosa County School District are partnered in providing the very best possible training and the technologies for keeping Okaloosa schools safe.
That's right, and Sheriff Eric Aiden says Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office school resource officers are trained to engage immediately if our students, teachers, or administrators are threatened.
We've been contracted with the school board since 1997. I was the first wave of school resource officers back then in 97, 98 that went into the schools for the sheriff's office. Ever since then, we've had school safety as one of the most top priorities at the sheriff's office, but it really came into fruition with Larry Ashley in 2012 after the Sandy Hook shooting. And that tragic event had Larry Ashley implement an unprecedented move where he put school resource officers in every school. And then with Uvalde, Texas, what we saw at the end of the school year last year, that coupled with school starting, I really wanted to just touch base with the public and let them know and affirm to them that our commitment is never been any stronger than it is now. We train. Our SRT training is probably the highest tactical training at the sheriff's office, but second to that, and only second to that, is the SRO program. They utilize everything from technology and training. They've had individual and nationally recognized awards over the last 12 years, over the last 10 years, really, since Sandy Hook. But after Sandy Hook, we had another tragic event at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas in South Florida, in Parkland, Florida, in Broward County. Because of the vision that Larry Ashley had early on, he was recognized as an expert on the subject matter of school safety. So he was actually tasked with being on the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Commission and to look at the failures, because every time that there's a tragic event like this, the only takeaway that is positive, if there is anything positive that you can take away from that, is learning from the mistakes. There were a lot of mistakes in Parkland. It's one of the things that Larry Ashley realized, that the radio system was a failure there, which is why he pushed for the half-cent sales tax to allow us to purchase a new radio system that's being actually implemented now. There's a lot of other techniques that came out of there. Legislation came out of there. Funding came out of there. Things like the Guardian program, where we can actually arm staff at the school that go through a certain level of training. That's one of the things that came out of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas legislation. Additionally was funding for hardening schools with the fencing that we see all over our schools, the single point entry, all the different fortifications that the school system has been mandated to do through the Department of Education and through legislation. All of those things, Okaloosa County was one of the first to implement those fortifications after the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. So one of the biggest questions that we have that I just want to let the public understand is that, you know, there are failures. We saw the failures in Uvalde. We saw the failures, but you know, one of the things is, you know, is there a hesitation? Would your officers go in? Without a doubt, everyone that puts on the badge at the sheriff's office, the expectation was there when I was a young deputy. The expectation was certainly here under Larry Ashley, and the expectation among our staff and certainly our SROs is that they're willing to pay the ultimate sacrifice if called upon to do that. They know that they take that chance every day that they put that uniform on. I can't say enough about the brave men and women that work here and work for us and provide that level of security for you. But there's no doubt in my mind that not only would the deputies, but the supervisors would never allow something like a hesitation to cause additional deaths in a time of crisis like a mass shooting. So I'm totally confident that they have every tool necessary. Last week I was at the Florida Sheriff's Association conference in Orlando. While they were doing that, the National School Safety Conference was going on, and our captain, Lenny Holloway, that's the commander over the school resource officers, he was there learning about all the recent techniques. Some of the things that came out of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas failures was technology, things that were implemented at the Department of Education level, like a notification system that is mandated for a notification system where you can email, text, video, or call if the circumstances allow, but for whatever the safest means necessary to communicate in the event of a horrific act like a school shooting. We hope to never use it. There were 9 different platforms for that notification system. The top 4 of those were vetted by the school board school safety team, Danny Dean and Steve Horton. And they ultimately decided on the Safer Watch platform. That particular platform was also endorsed by the Florida Sheriff's Association, out of 9 being the best one. The Department of Education didn't mandate which one you went with, but that's the one that we went with. We have a lot of other tools. Every one of these platforms and technologies we put in place does something a little bit different. We even have the Hope Squad, which is, you know, when you see an individual might be struggling emotionally, you know, see something, say something. Something that I want to reiterate is, you know, the life you save could be your own. So see something, say something. If you hear something, say something. Every one of these platforms provides a little bit different, and the school board and the sheriff's office have implemented everything available out there technology-wise. From a tactical standpoint, all of our SROs are issued a customized, what we call a short rifle, a full auto rifle that they're issued. They have those accessible to them, in addition to all the hours of training that they have. But again, they've been recognized as the best for security, mentorship, and just overall school resource officer program in the country. I think that just recently we had a parent call me and just say, hey, I want to let you know we moved here from out of state. We moved here, number one reason we moved here was the school and the security that which you guys operate with the school board and the sheriff's office as far as school security for our kids. It's a top priority for our school board. It's a top priority at the sheriff's office. We have one in every school. We have two in most high schools. And you know, it's been a very fruitful relationship that we've had with the school board for now, 25 years. Right now, this week, we're doing active shooter training. All of our SROs will go through their interval groups and go through that training. In addition to that, we have the Milo. The Milo is a system, it's basically like a video game, but it gives you hundreds of scenarios to go through. And the technology is unbelievable. And their use of force-on-force training. So it really prepares them, and as you mentioned, we've checked every box that we possibly can. Can't say that one SRO can stop a threat, but they're certainly going to do the best they can to try and stop that threat while the other reinforcements are there.
And now we've got another list of fugitives we're hoping maybe you can help law enforcement locate. First up is going to be a new face, and this is somebody that's wanted by the Walton County Sheriff's Office for felony grand theft and contracting without a license, and that is Kelly Lynn Abbott.
Still looking for Cheyenne Lee Gentry, 27 years old, wanted for VOP for possession of methamphetamine.
63-year-old James Clinton Brinkley Jr., he's wanted for violation of probation for battery, last known to live over in Pensacola.
Justin Raphael Diaz, last known address was in Destin. He's wanted for felony possession of meth with intent to sell and possession of heroin.
Another one with no photo is Kelvin Paul Michael Weiss. He's 44-year-old white male. He's wanted for sexual battery.
And this is a Joseph Lee Fairchild. Fairchild's wanted for VOP for aggravated assault.
Some more good news, and that is that Ulysses Nunez Cardosa has been located since our last show.
Still looking for David Allen Bobbitt. He is wanted for fraud.
63-year-old Thomas Edward Allison, wanted for failure to appear for aggravated assault on a person 65 or older, last known to live out in Destin.
Toby Dean Collins is on the list for failure to register as a sexual offender, last known to live on Yacht Club Drive in Fort Walton Beach.
Another new addition this month is 35-year-old William Jeremiah Talbot. He's wanted for felony failure to appear for possession of a weapon or ammo by convicted felon and possession of narcotics equipment, last known to live on Olenis Lane in Crestview.
And this is another felony FTA, Daniel Robert Turner O'Rourke, failure to appear for grand theft and criminal mischief, last known to live in Crestview.
Jerry Daniel Bieber, who was last known to live on Boyce Drive in Shalimar, he's wanted for violation of probation for possession of methamphetamine as well as driving while license suspended or revoked.
And this photo is of Coretta LaDawn James. James is wanted for failure to appear for grand theft and fraud. James' last known address was on Wilson Street in Crestview.
Michael Edward Leahy, he's 37, wanted for felony hit and run with injuries, last known to live on Dune Lake Circle in Santa Rosa Beach.
David Richard Abbott's wanted for felony failure to appear for resisting arrest without violence and possession of controlled substance, last known address Fort Walton Beach.
47-year-old Leon Leslie Chandler, wanted for a violation of probation for driving while license suspended or revoked, as well as possession of weapon or ammo by a convicted felon, last known to live on Ashley Lane in Fort Walton Beach.
And wrapping up this list is Timothy Tyler Turner, no photo available, but he's a 31-year-old white male. Turner's wanted for sexual battery and lewd and lascivious molestation, last known to live on Red Perro Road in Baker.
Deputy Brian Molbeck presented awards to Sheila Grimes of Santa Rosa Beach and Cameron Mathis of Fort Walton Beach after both noticed a 5-year-old child standing along Highway 98 in Okaloosa and stopped their cars to get her to safety until OCSO deputies could arrive.
Yeah, this is a great thing. The child, who is autistic and nonverbal, had managed to slip out of her home and travel about half a mile before Grimes and Mathis stopped and moved her to safety. And after confirming the little girl's welfare, she was reunited with her dad.
All right, so back on May the 11th of this year, the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office received multiple 911 calls reporting a small child who was walking down US Highway 98 out in the Okaloosa area, which is out towards the Santa Rosa County line, and this was during a time of heavy traffic. Two citizens who were traveling along US Highway 98 in their vehicle, which Cameron Mathis and Sheila Grimes, saw the child and stopped their vehicles. The child was standing in a turn lane, is my understanding, near a towing company out in that area. They then called 911 and they waited for our deputies to arrive. They stayed with the child, and we had EMS and deputies arrive to confirm the welfare of the child and determine what had happened. We determined that the child was an autistic and nonverbal 5-year-old who had wandered out of her home from a subdivision approximately 0.6 miles, just over half a mile from the location where she was found. And ultimately, the father of the child arrived at the scene after realizing his daughter was missing. We were able to confirm the child's welfare and confirm the circumstances, and ultimately the child was reunited with her family. Based on the swift actions of Cameron Mathis and Sheila Grimes, the child was unharmed and quickly reunited with her father. Without their intervention, the child certainly could have been harmed or not immediately recovered, especially with the incident occurring during 5 o'clock traffic on a weekday shortly before dark along Highway 98. So they were nominated and have received a Community Service Award to formally recognize their actions back on May the 11th. And first I have a certificate. This is a Community Service Award from Sheriff Eric Aiden, which states your actions are a reflection of the strength and courage and character of our community. So this is for you. We appreciate you. And I also have the same for Mr. Mathis. Again, Community Service Award from Sheriff Eric Aiden. That's for you. And we appreciate you.
And we've got another list of folks who are hiding from law enforcement, and we're hoping you can help us find them. We're going to start with 26-year-old Brayon J. Valenzuela Castillo, wanted for failure to appear for lewd behavior with a victim 12 to 14, last known to live on Tyner Street in Fort Walton Beach.
I have a Niceville PD case up next. Michelle Alicia Fortson, she's wanted for felony grand theft and passing forged checks, that is, and her last known address was in Fort Walton Beach.
OCSO deputies still looking for 35-year-old Blake Elliott Gundred, wanted for violation of probation for grand theft, trafficking in stolen property, and providing false information to a pawnbroker. Well, Deputy Paul Brown started with the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office back in 1977 and retired as an honorary major in 2011.
But, his commitment to the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office and the community did not end there. He came back to serve as the OCSO armorer until his second retirement just recently in July of this year.
But just 45 years of being a law enforcement officer in one agency, it just says a lot about him and his dedication to his county, to his community, and to the career field that we all are passionate about. I guess he started in June of '77 in the jail, and then became, came onto the road in October, and then of course here we are in 2022. And he's finally decided to take it to the house, or to the farm, I should say. Without further ado, if I could bring Man of the Hour up here.
Mostly what I want to say is thank you. Thank you personally for what you've done for me, the way you've modeled the way for me, and for so many of us in this room. You took great care of us. You taught us well. And thank you from, on behalf of the citizens, 45 years of your life dedicated to the safety and security of our community. I want to say thank you to the family.
And they moved my buddy here, but I have an explanation. When I was a North End captain, everybody would rag me about being the agency dinosaur. At that point in time, I had over 30 years in with the agency, but they'd love to rub it in that I was the agency dinosaur. So I got this fella here And then when I became armor, it was actually a double-edged joke, because not only was I the agency dinosaur, I was the small arms guy. So that's why he got to come in today. But I've always took to heart the responsibility and what we are to the community. It's funny, you know, you try not to get emotional when you're up here, but like I said, I've always tried to be, once I got in this business, I always kept in mind what we are to the community, what position we hold in their trust, and the fact that we're not the one that's in charge, we're the one that's a servant. And I've always tried to model my career to that extent, that we're the servant. And I thank my family, especially my wife, for allowing me to do this for 45 years. So, and that's where I get emotional, because I know what the price they pay.
Wow, you know, I don't know that we'll see this again. Someone that's dedicated 45 years of full-time deputy sheriff service to their community. Paul's always been that just exemplary leader of our agency. It's amazing to watch him work, and just the bar he set was pretty high.
And wrapping up, recently a Niceville Police Department K-9 handler was injured and K-9 Blue was killed following a traffic crash. Thankfully, the officer is okay.
That's right, and the bond between handler and K-9 is fierce, and members of the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office K-9 unit were honored to assist with K-9 Blue's escort to Blue Water Bay Animal Hospital after the accident.